everyone, Agent Gold here. Thanks for joining me for this mini Let's Play, which is actually the first Let's Play I've ever done, and I'm going to be taking you through just a short section of one of my favorite games of all time. So, Final Fantasy VI. It's actually a game that goes back to Super Nintendo times, when it was called Final Fantasy III. I was kind of surprised to find out that a lot of my friends have never heard of this game and don't know anything about it, which it's really a great game, so I kind of want to introduce people to it a little bit. So I'm just going to be walking through a short section that has just a little taste of everything that I love about the game. It does take place a little ways in, it's pretty early on, but I should probably go ahead and explain the story up until that point, so if you're someone watching this who's already familiar with the game, you can go right ahead and skip on to the first video, don't even worry about this one. But for those who've never heard of it before, here's what it's all about. The game's prologue tells us about the War of the Magi, a devastating war from 1,000 years ago. Magic was a thing back when the war happened, but is pretty much lost in the modern day. People have turned to machinery as a replacement for magic, so we're in a steampunk era. Makes enough sense, right? There's an evil empire, and they're trying to revive the power of magic and use it to take over the world, and they're kind of succeeding at it. They've got magical machines, like Magitech armor, and that's their advantage against anyone who stands against them. Now, they hear about a mining city called Narsh, and in the mines, the people have found a frozen creature called an Esper. Espers are magical beings, but there's not very much known about them. They're from another world. The Empire's interested in getting their hands on this Esper, so they send 2 soldiers and a girl. The girl is lucky. She was born as a magic user, but they've got a slave crown on her. She cannot think for herself. She just does what she's ordered to. She can't think consciously. She has no idea what she's doing, so they're just using her as a living weapon. So they go to the city and they steamroll everything that it throws at them, trying to defend itself. They make their way to the Esper, and it starts reacting to the girl. It, for whatever reason, disintevaporates the 2 soldiers, and then it blows up her Magitech armor. So the girl wakes up and finds herself in the care of an old man who's removed her slave crown. Her name's Terra, by the way. She can't remember anything. Nothing about storming into the city or her past. Nothing. The old man wants to help her out, but the city guards are after her because they're not too happy about that whole barging in with the Magitech armor thing. So she tries to escape through the mines, but they corner her, and she falls into a chasm and falls unconscious. And while she's there, she has these very vague memories about the Empire and about this evil man named Kefka who put the slave crown on her, and then ordered her to fry a bunch of their own soldiers. Go figure. Now, the old man doesn't want to leave her on her own, so he sends for an adventurer named Locke, who is either a thief or a treasure hunter, depending on who you ask. Locke agrees to help her, so he arrives where she's at, and he rescues her, all cool guy style, and he helps her get out of the mine, and he helps her get out of the city. And together they start heading south into the desert for a place called Figaro Castle. It turns out that Locke knows the king of Figaro, King Edgar. Now Edgar, he's kind of a ladies' man, he likes to put on a good show, and he lets Terra stay in the castle for a while. And while she stays there, she finds out about his twin brother who left the castle 10 years ago. Now I'm going to call specific attention to this guy because once this Let's Play gets going, he's the one who we're going to be following. His name is Sabin, and right now all we know is that we don't know anything about where he is or what he's doing right now. So this visit of Terra's gets interrupted by a visit from the Empire. The visitor is this evil man named Kefka. Now Kefka, this guy should be giving you the creeps right now. I mean, he's got his own evil theme song, he's got this evil laugh. he's just got bad news written all over him. So he comes into the castle and Edgar meets with him. Kefka wants to know where Terra is. He wants to bring her back to the Empire. Edgar, he's going to protect her. He pretends he has no idea what Kefka is talking about. But Kefka knows that there's a trick here, and he's not too happy about this. So during the night, he sets the castle on fire. And he just gonna sit there and enjoy it until Edgar brings him who he wants. But Edgar has got a plan. Edgar has got chocobos waiting for him. They're these big riding birds that are used commonly throughout the Final Fantasy games. He's going to make his escape with Locke and Terra, but they're not just abandoning the people here. Because what Kefka doesn't know is that the entire castle is a giant sand submarine, so it goes safely beneath the sand and leaves him high and dry. Edgar, Locke, and Terra go off on their way and leave him completely stranded in the middle of the desert. As they ride along, Edgar and Locke explain that they're members of the Returners, an underground resistance movement working against the Empire. Just think of the Rebel Alliance from Star Wars and you'll have the idea. They want Terra to speak with their leader, Bannon. And she's pretty unsure about things, but she's willing to go along with them and willing to speak to him. So they go through a cave and they arrive at a town called South Figaro. And they speak to the townsfolk there, you know, like you do in RPG games. Then they go on to Mount Colts, which they have to cross in order to get to their hideout. And as they go, they meet this very unpleasant man named Vargas, who is a martial arts student of Master Duncan, and actually his son. And he just insists on giving them a hard time and bullying them with his trained bears. I don't know how he trained the bears. And as they're fighting with him, surprise, surprise, Sabin shows up, who is also one of Master Duncan's students. And Vargas just plays this whole I'm better than you game with him, and Sabin demolishes him with a technique that Vargas never learned. So this is a big surprise to everybody. No one expected to see him here, except, well, you know, you as the player. But Sabin, he's got a good heart. He wants to see the world return to peace, and he figures that joining up with his brother and the Returners is the best way to go about it. So, huzzah! Now before we go on with the story, let me take just a minute to explain how Sabin's fighting style works, because it'll be a little bit confusing if you're not familiar with it. He's got a command called Blitz, and this represents his martial arts training and the techniques that he learned there. Each technique that he has a button input combination that you need to use to trigger it. So you just choose the Blitz command, put in the button combination, and he'll use the technique. He's got 3 of them to start with. He's got Raging Fist, which he used to take down Vargas. He's got Aura Cannon, which is your Kamehameha Hadoken. And he's got Meteor Strike, where he grabs an enemy, jumps into the air, and slams him to the ground. Meteor Strike is stronger than Raging Fist, but it doesn't work against all enemies, like enemies who are flying it won't hit, so each one has its uses, and they're all more useful than his regular attack command, so this is what you'll be seeing when he fights. I will say this, once in a while I do screw up the command, so if he misses a turn because of that, that's why. I'll try not to do that. So they make it to the Returners' hideout and they meet with Bannon. Now Bannon really wants Terra to join the Returners, and Terra is really not sure what she wants to do. She speaks with some of the Returners in the hideout, and she speaks with her friends, and she finds out why they're fighting and that they want her to make her own decision. She's moved enough by it that she decides, alright, I'll go ahead and join. So the group meets about the Empire, and they talk about where do they get their Magitech weaponry from. And they know that the Empire's been researching Espers, and the whole debacle in Narsh was about an Esper, so they must be getting their Magitech power from Espers. And Bannon has a plan. It's not a very good one, but it's all they have to go off of. Since the Esper reacted to Terra before, they figure they'll have her talk to it and see if she can wake it up, and maybe it will help them, and maybe things will work out. The meeting is cut short when a beaten-up member of the Returners comes back to the hideout and says that the Empire has taken over South Figaro and they're coming this way. And so Bannon says that they need to get out of there, And Edgar sends Locke to go to South Figaro and slow the Empire down. And he's going to do a really good job of it, but he's going to get trapped in the city, so he's going to need to be stealing outfits from merchants and soldiers and using those as disguises to make his way around trying to find his way out. Eventually he'll find a secret passage leading out of the city, and he'll find one of the Empire's former generals turned traitor being held prisoner. Her name is Celeste. And he's going to help her escape, all cool guy style. They'll get out of the city together, make their way back through that cave, and fight this thing for some reason. But none of that has happened yet, and it's not really what we care about anyway. Bannon has a raft ready at the back of the hideout, so he and the others are going to escape to Narsh using the Leith River. Things go along pretty smoothly until, as you might expect, an octopus happens. So they fight against it. It's a boss fight. You've seen this before. You know how these work. And when the fight is done, it dives into the water. They're not really sure if it's actually gone or not until it starts harassing Terra with its tentacles. Sabin's pretty mad at it, so he jumps off the raft and continues fighting with it. And the others are not sure what to think, but Bannon says, oh, he'll just flop right back up on the raft. You just wait. Instead, for whichever reason, he goes flying, and he gets swept up in the river and goes some different direction entirely. Edgar, Terra, and Bannon make back to Narsh as expected, but the guards still recognize Terra as that Magitech armor girl, and they're still pretty upset about the whole thing, so they're not letting him in the front. They'll have to use a little bit of trickery. They'll go back the way Locke came when he first rescued Terra. They'll figure their way through a puzzle or two, and eventually find their way back to the old man's house. His name is Arvis, by the way. So they'll start planning their strategy for what to do about the Empire. But again, this is not really the part that we're interested in. What we want to know is what happened to Sabin after he got separated from the rest of the group. And starting from the next video, that's exactly what we're going to do. So there's my little intro for you. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you understand a little bit more about the game now. And I hope to see you in the next video when we start Sabin's journey. See you there.